Hello everybody, it's Owen here from the Hogs of War Reheated team, proud to bring you the first developer update for Lardcore. Now I know it may be a bit confusing that we have two different names, but they are essentially the same thing. We haven't quite done away with Reheated yet as the main sort of game name, because Hogs of War Lardcore, you know, it's got a nice catchy ring to it, but Reheated is something that we want to keep hold of as a name and maybe do something with later on down the line. But today we have new gameplay, lots of things to discuss, and plenty of feedback is going to be needed from you guys because, well, it's been a long time and there's a lot of stuff to show. It's been roughly 3 years since any kind of gameplay was shown on this channel, and that's kind of for good reason. The pandemic, of course, greatly impacted everyone's progress. Not being able to meet up in the studio was going to be a huge problem because, you know, sharing ideas. Working from home remotely is great, but at the end of the day, Microsoft Teams only goes so far. But also a lot of the things that were being worked on was more the background game engine stuff. So if you're a programmer, that might be interesting, but for the rest of us wanting to see actual visual gameplay, it wasn't going to happen. So just over a week ago, I headed up to Sheffield to meet the team and finally meet Ian Stewart in person, the man behind the project becoming what it is today, and indeed the main man to hold the license for the Hogs of War IP. You'll recall he was the original CEO of Gremlin Interactive before they were taken over by Infogrames back in the day. Meeting the team was great, and being able to put everything into perspective and indeed have some kind of timeline as to what we're working with was wonderful, and we'll be discussing all those details shortly, but before then, let's take a look at how that journey went. Well, good morning everybody. It is almost 10:30 and I am about to leave. I have my bag packed, which as you can see, I'm just putting my final few bits together. I've got my notebook in there to take extra notes. I've got extra memory sticks and everything, so yeah, everything's pretty much ready to go. My train isn't going to be until like 11:45, so I've got like a good hour to kill, but that's just kind of the person that I am. I don't like leaving myself with barely any time, so I'd rather get to the train station with like an hour to spare than get there 10 minutes before my train shows up, because sometimes trains have a habit of showing up, especially if it's like the start of the line. They'll show up and sometimes they'll leave early. I don't know, I've seen it happen a few times while being on those trains, so I've always felt for the passengers that haven't made it there on time. As of right now, I'm gonna, it's very echoey in here, I'm gonna make myself some breakfast and then head off basically, because I've got a long ass journey ahead of me. Thankfully the weather isn't too bad and I'm hoping to not get rained on, so that's gonna be a plus, fingers crossed. But we'll see how things are up in Sheffield. It's gonna be about, I don't know, 4 hours for me to get up there, because it's roughly 3 hours to Nottingham and then an additional hour to then get to Sheffield, and then I have to then trek to the hotel. So yeah, it's probably just going to be like B-grade footage of just scenery for the next 3 hours. So yeah, I'll keep you updated.
Ladies and gents, 12:45 cross-country service to Nottingham, calling Newport, Chepstow, Gloucester, Cheltenham Spa, Ashchurch, Worcestershire Parkway, University, Birmingham Lee Street.
Well, here we are, after a full 5 hours of travelling. It is finally time to kick back, put my bag down finally, kick my shoes off and I don't know, do some stuff. So I managed to make it here in one piece, just about. That was a longer journey than expected. It was meant to be roughly about 4 hours, but it ended up being 5 because as soon as I got to the station, the very first train station, my train was cancelled. And I had to wait for an hour for the next one, so I'm technically an hour behind, but I didn't intend to do anything on this first day anyway. It was just a case of getting here, chilling out, and all the interesting stuff will be happening tomorrow. So I've got about half an hour until I have some dinner. I'm booked in the restaurant downstairs, and I am starving because I haven't really eaten since I left. It's like 5 hours ago, so comfy bed, let's go. Well, food was good, did the trick, and ended up watching my league match on that TV, which was pretty cool. Lots of mistakes, lots of things to improve on, but either way it's time for sleep because tomorrow is going to be a big day and indeed a long day, and there's going to be a lot to do. A lot more travelling, but also, you know, the main reason why I came up here in the first place. So hopefully we can sort things out, hopefully get some gameplay recorded. I honestly don't know, but it's just going to be fun to finally meet Ian Stewart in person. And yeah, just catch up with the rest of the team. So I'm going to get some sleep, and I'll catch you guys in the morning. Good night. Good morning. It wasn't the worst sleep in the world, but could have been better, I suppose. But plan for this morning, obviously, shower, get dressed, go have some breakfast, and then I'll be heading over to the university building, where it's finally time to meet the team. So, yeah, big day ahead. And I just hope I have the energy. I'm mainly worried about traveling later, but that's just me as a person. I always get super nervous before I travel anywhere, especially when I'm going from one end of the line to the other, seeing as I'm going to have to go from here back to Nottingham, and then Nottingham all the way down back to Cardiff again. So yeah, but one thing at a time. It's going to be shower first, then get some food, and chill. So that morning I headed down to the university building, and it wasn't really a time to continue recording for the vlog, which is why the footage kind of ends here, but it's now time for the exciting gameplay part, where we finally get to look at how things have progressed, updated, changed, and everything else in between. So before we look at the gameplay, there are 4 main things you need to know. The first thing is that everything you're about to see is still very much a heavy work in progress, which goes without saying. The second thing is that you will obviously see things that are wrong. For instance, the 2 teams that you'll see playing against each other, the team colours are the wrong way round. And those are things that we already know and are taken care of, don't worry. The third point is that the pig models may look like they've had the least amount of development since I last recorded gameplay footage, but I can assure you that they are going through their own design process. As I've already said on point 1, everything is work in progress and the pig models are no different. At the moment it feels like the game is in its sort of cutesy stage, and that's kind of how the original game actually followed its own design process. It had like a cutesy phase and then it moved into the pigs that we know now. But yeah, just keep that in mind. And last but not least, the damage numbers are not what they seem, and I'm going to be explaining that in just a moment when you see them, because yeah, I was a little bit shocked, and the reason why will shock you even more. So, welcome everybody to Hogs of War Reheated. There is a ton of stuff to unpack in this gameplay footage, as you will see, but I have to start by saying sorry for there not being any game audio. At the moment, the audio stuff is under construction, but you will be hearing more of it and kind of hearing more of our ideas going forward in future videos. Not just for audio, but for basically every aspect that you see that is currently in development. First things first though, the maps are still mirrored, which is hella confusing for me, because playing this, it was familiar, but completely different at the same time. I'm like, wait, where are the enemies? Where's the health crates? Where am I even going? Like, you know, there's just There's so much going on. But starting off, you can see that we have a beautiful skybox and an expanded terrain in the background because we wanted to increase this sense of size within the world. It certainly helps to make the world feel bigger, and we're just hoping to cram as much detail into those background terrains as we possibly can. Maybe even going so far as to expand on certain elements of the storyline within the single player campaign or just through the general themes that are used on those maps. So for instance, if you're playing on a map that is, kind of based on a farmyard, maybe in the background terrain you'll see rolling hills, you'll see tractors going about their business, just things to make the world feel alive. Speaking of feeling alive, what do you guys think about our animated grass? There is just a ton of detail already added into the game that it just boggles my mind that certain things are possible on a game like Hogs of War. Like, just look at the top of the water surface there. We have mist and fog that's just caressing the water as it goes along. Just little things like that really set the tone for the level that is being made, and it really gives me hope for what we can achieve going forward with the tools that have been made so far. For those of you with keen eyes, you will of course know that this is Mission 2's routine patrol, but it's not normally set at night time. This map has kind of become our testing ground for, well, basically everything you see. The weather effects, the skybox, and indeed all of the 3D elements, like the newly added rocks, which are actually going to be removed. On paper it seems like a no-brainer in terms of adding detail, but the complication arises when you look at the 2D versus the 3D. The one thing that Hogs always did really well was define what tiles are walkable and what tiles are slippery. If you introduce 3D geometry into that, it becomes a little bit more complicated because yes, okay, you can look at a rock and say, okay, I can't walk on that, but how does the pig then interact with it? And will it become stuck? Because let's be honest, the pigs in Hogs can become stuck pretty easily on the terrain, especially if it's pointy or if it's just blocking the pig's route down onto a walkable tile. Don't worry though, we aren't completely getting rid of the rocks. They will still remain, just not in the same quantity or size that you currently see scattered around the level. By the way, did you guys see that? Did you see my pig getting shot and taking 25 damage? What is that about, I hear you ask? Well, I will tell you, because I was astounded when I heard this. Okay, so the game's original code had a wee little feature whereby if a pig was shot in the face with the likes of a pistol or a rifle or a tranquilizer, basically any bullet-based weapon that deals the standard 20 damage we know today, if you shot a pig in the face or the head, i.e. get a headshot, it will deal 25 damage. That was removed at the last second because I ended up having not an argument, but a wee bit of a discussion with Luke about whether or not that actually still exists in the game today. I assure you it does not. If you go into multiplayer right now and shoot a pig in the face with a pistol, it's only going to deal 20 damage. But in this case, 25 is the magic number. And it confused the hell out of me initially because headshot damage doesn't exist. The sniper rifle deals 40 damage and every other bullet-based weapon either does 40 or 20 damage apiece. Not 25, that is just bizarre. Or I guess the shotgun, right? The shotgun does 30 damage. Either way, after 21 years of playing this game, it continues to throw me random bits of knowledge and indeed information that I never would have thought would have been a part of Hogs' development. But what do you guys think about the whole 25 damage thing? What do you think about everything that has been shown on screen so far? Let me know your thoughts on everything in the comments, because feedback is going to be very greatly appreciated for everything that is spoken about in this video. As the community, you guys are going to be at the forefront of everything. A lot of the design decisions that we're going to be making are based around the interests that you guys have, but don't forget, we're also keeping in mind new players and how the original game currently looks to them and how we can improve that to make it a little bit more user-friendly, to update it to more modern standards and include certain features that you would normally see in, kind of the most basic of games. So that is it for the sneak peek of gameplay in Reheated so far. But next up is going to be a discussion of all of the ideas that we have going forward to bring this project into its next phase of development. So I'm going to hand you over to, I guess, my future self to discuss all the details and share with you the lay of the land. So, what do you guys think? Every bit of feedback you can give will be greatly appreciated in the comments below as always. What are your main thoughts? We can see the main comparison between how the gameplay originally looked back in the early prototype, and now we're basically at the pre-alpha stage, roughly, or at least just on the cusp of that, so we're making good progress. But now I'd like to discuss with you the main meat of this video, besides the gameplay of course. And that is what is going to be happening going forward with this project. What is our plan to take forward Hogs of War Lardcore / Reheated? Ultimately, we want to include every aspect of the community in this. So whether you are a purist who enjoys playing on PlayStation, or whether you are a PC gamer, we intend to include everybody in this plan going forward. We've toyed with the idea before, but basically we're looking to start a Kickstarter. If you cast your minds back, you'll remember that Stone Sword Games did exactly the same thing for their card game and miniatures game of Hogs, and the card game produced about 30k's worth of profit, whereas the miniatures game produced 112k, but for this official project we're going to be pushing the bar a lot higher, so we're roughly going to be looking for around 500k's worth of profit to produce the main things that we want to have in Reheated. It may seem like a pretty steep climb, but I honestly feel like we have what it takes to hit that target. Because ultimately we'll be offering different tiers of things that we want to achieve, but to put things on a plate for you of the sort of minimum that we want to have in the game, of course all the localization of the German version, the French version, the Russian version, the Spanish version, all the localization to be included for all of you overseas fans over there. We're not forgetting about you, don't worry. Online multiplayer, of course, is a huge one, and indeed being able to port to different platforms is going to be huge. That also includes upgrading to PS5, because ultimately this project originally started when the PS5 was on the cusp of being released. So the original plan was to release on PS4, but things have changed, hardware has changed, so yeah, we have to change too. Because we are a significantly small team, the Kickstarter will also assist us in being able to hire additional staff, so more programmers, more artists, and in turn, being able to produce more content for you guys to see. We hear the outcry for everything that is wanted in Hogs, whether that be customization, whether that be online networking, because at the end of the day, you've seen what we can achieve so far without any funding. As a community, we've been able to use Parsec, our emulators. The League competitively has been huge, so that will be a huge boost for the competitive scene, being able to have online multiplayer without any kind of third-party software, and just everything else in between is possible, but it just requires that little bit more funding. Right now we're trying to refine what will be within each tier of the Kickstarter, but what I want to know from you guys is, do you think this is a good idea? What do you want to see within the Kickstarter, and indeed within sort of the base game itself? Is there anything specific that you want to see in Hogs? Maybe more customizable characters, cosmetics, not going so wacky as the likes of Team Fortress 2 with the likes of headwear and such, because, you know, artistically we want to keep it within the realms of what Hogs is known for, that sort of First World War setting, maybe a little bit of World War II splashed in there, but all ideas are of course welcome in the comments below. What do you guys want to see? And think of this as rallying the troops for what is to come, because I will be producing plenty more developer updates in the future. We have maybe one more before the year is up, and then going into 2023, oh boy, there is a lot of stuff to come. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, we want to produce the best possible product for the Hogs of War community, and that includes both veteran players and new players coming in as well, because let's face it, there's a lot of quality of life changes the game could have that the original didn't necessarily offer. What I can offer though is plenty more developer updates coming down the line, like I said, and keeping you guys in the loop with everything that we have coming up, that we can showcase, that we can discuss, and yeah, keeping everybody involved. So let me know your thoughts on absolutely everything in the comments. I will be reading every single one, and on behalf of myself and the team, thank you for joining me today, and I'll catch you guys later for the next one.